Welcome back to the classroom for another Ultraman Monster Bio, students. Today we'll be taking a look at another classic creature from the original 1966 Ultraman series, Keronia, the blood-sucking plant. You may notice I have deliberately dressed a bit differently for the occasion. I believe the reason for my choice in clothing will become clear shortly. But in the meantime, let's jump into some behind-the-scenes history. So, this kaiju... Oh wait, does Keronia actually count as a kaiju? You know what? I think this may actually be a rare instance of an Ultraman monster being a Kaijin, meaning strange person, like most Kamen Rider and Super Sentai baddies, rather than a Kaiju, which means strange beast, or a Seijin, which basically means alien, because he is a roughly humanoid and human-sized, at least at first, intelligent being that does not originate from outer space, like most intelligent Ultra monsters do. So yeah, I think this is actually a Kaijin Bio pencil leopard.
Ah, sweet!
And that means the thumbnail is wrong. Oh well, it's close enough. Anyway, with that classification rant over, let's actually look at behind-the-scenes stuff now. The creator of Keronia was very likely the man who both wrote the screenplay for and directed the monster's debut episode, Who Goes There, namely Yuzo Higuchi, who wrote under the name Taro Kaido. The episode is reportedly based on a sci-fi novella of the same name, which is also the basis of movies featuring The Thing, so Keronia is basically the Ultra series' version of that monster, I guess. Keronia's concept art, designed to look like a collection of leaves, which you can see here, was of course designed by Toll Narita, the creator of basically all the Ultra monsters from this era, and the Kaijin was modeled by the legendary Ryosaku Takayama. For the human-sized version, it seems the Keronia head was just stuck on top of Hiroki Rino, the guy who played Goto, and he kept Goto's clothes on and got to play the monster for a few scenes. There were two other actors that wore the Keronia suit as well, namely Koji Ogi and Fumio Ikeda. A model of some sort that could be blown up at the end of the episode was also constructed. One website claims Keronia's roars are modified from the cries of the kaiju Maguma from Gorath. Maguma's roars came from, among other things, elephant trumpets, and Keronia sounds a lot like an elephant. So I'd say there's a good chance this is true. Very weird roar selection for this plant monster, but hey, I guess most plants in real life don't make any noises at all, so if one spoke up, maybe they'd sound like elephants. Goto's actor provided some spoken lines for Keronia as well. I'm not sure exactly what Keronia's name means, since I know almost no Japanese, but I do know Kero means ribbit, so maybe it's because someone thought he looked like a frog? I don't know, I'll have to count on someone in the comments to explain the name. Have you figured out the reason for my different suit coat yet? I expect you probably have, but if you still aren't sure, I bet Keronia's in-universe history will make it apparent. Let's check out his creepy story. About 5 seconds after the theme song concluded, audiences watching Who Goes There could already see Keronia on their TV sets, but they couldn't have any way of knowing that yet because he was in his human disguise at this point. Posing as an SSSP correspondent from the South American branch named Goto, Keronia arrived at Japan's SSSP headquarters pretending to be lodging there for, some reason that the episode didn't really get into. Suspicious things began happening soon after his arrival, and then, when he was alone in the room the SSSP provided him, Goto shut the curtains and took the sus stuff to a whole new level. It seems there was an imposter among the SSSP, and funnily enough, Hayata, aka Ultraman, was basically the last person to suspect him. However, everyone realized something might be up with him after Fuji reported Goto's claim that their headquarters was constructed with a special alloy, because this was top-secret information that wouldn't be casually mentioned. But they couldn't look further into his background because some of their equipment mysteriously, or maybe not so mysteriously, stopped working. The team then became a bit distracted by reports of unusual plants growing up to 2 meters in just one day in a certain city, and after checking them out for themselves, asked Captain Kiriyama from Ultraseven to provide them with some info on this vegetation. Okay, the scientist wasn't actually Captain Kiriyama, he was a professor named Ninomiya, but it was the same actor. I don't think the SSSP was expecting the response he gave them at all. He said the weird plants were extremely similar to a moving carnivorous plant called a Keronia that could paralyze creatures and drain their blood that his old teacher reportedly discovered in South America. He showed them a sketch that did indeed look like the same plant, but the second image looked humanoid. Was this what they were growing into? Horrifying. Oh, by the way, his teacher who discovered these plants was named Goto. You can't make this stuff up. Oh wait, I guess you can if your name is Yuzo Higuchi. Anyway, Fuji, meanwhile, hadn't forgotten about Goto and began investigating his room while he wasn't in there and found his weird machine. But then, Maybe look away for a second, kids. This scary thing happened. In my every Ultraman Kaiju reveal video, I ranked this reveal as number 1. Definitely memorable and creepy. The well-dressed monster knocked Fuji unconscious with a weird shock attack. She was discovered off-screen and presumably taken somewhere to recover, as she didn't appear until the end of the episode. The SSSP began investigating Goto's room, by the way he was pretending to be a human again, to look for clues to what happened to Fuji, and after seeing him being very protective of his suitcase, Hayata had Ide and Arashi escort him from the room, acting like they weren't suspicious of him, and in his absence, Hayata searched the suitcase and found... Analysis of this sample by the plant professor proved it was indeed from a Keronia plant, but it was much different than the one discovered in South America. It had somehow rapidly evolved to become more advanced than even a human. It was a piece of an early stage of carnivorous, intelligent, humanoid plant that wanted to eat human blood and take over the world. Yikes. Also very weird. And yikes. Somehow, Goto used his strange machine to learn the professor had the sample. Maybe from the sample itself? Eek. And decided to finish off Captain Kiriyama since he knew too much. Luckily, Hayata, of course, now totally knew Goto was a threat and trailed him to the lab, interrupting Keronia's plans, though the Kaijin did manage to knock the scientist out. The monster fled the scene and soon smashed out of a building, now at kaiju size, and began destroying the city while making a villain speech about how his kin of plant people who had already established an advanced civilization were going to take over the world from us. And he meant what he said. Here come the plant people in UFOs. Crazy episode, huh? The Japanese military tried to take out Keronia with tanks, but believe it or not, it actually didn't work. Go figure. And after destroying more buildings, Keronia took the tanks out. But then it was Ultraman's turn. The hero made a cool entrance that shocked the plant monster and tricked Keronia to make him fall down. He tossed the monster on the ground, but then took a bit of a beating. The momentum quickly shifted back to his favor, though, so Keronia began begging for mercy, and Ultraman decided to give him a chance. However, the plant monster was just trying to trick Ultraman and fired an electric beam from his eyes. But Ultraman wasn't caught off guard and was able to completely block the attack and counter with his signature Spacium beam, which, surprisingly, did absolutely nothing. Stunned, Ultraman was forced to return to melee attacks, and he and Keronia ended up wrestling on the ground. When the episode returned to the fight, Keronia seemed to have gained the upper hand, but Ultraman was able to break free, and after a few more melee attacks that ended in this kick, Ultraman decided to try out a new move called the Ultra Attack Ray. The move connected, and the monstrous-sized Keronia was destroyed. But there were still all those little Keronia UFOs to deal with. The SSSP had taken out a few of them, but ultimately Ultraman would be the one to finish the job, using his Spacium beam, which actually worked this time. Finally, the plants growing in the city were uprooted and destroyed by Arashi and used for kindling by the locals. Apparently, Keronia had been putting out the fires in the SSSP base because his kind was weak to fire. And that did it. The plant invasion was officially over. What a crazy episode. Let's look at Keronia's minor appearances now. Keronia has a mediocre amount of minor appearances, and for the most part they're all very minor indeed. His most major role was the incredibly low-budget miniseries Ultra Fight, in which the plant monster, now looking like this, fought several monsters including Alien Icarus and Cibozu across 9 episodes. Apparently a different Keronia head, possibly the original, can be seen in the final episode. These 2 films repurposed stock footage of Keronia from Ultraman, and he appeared in a picture in Ultrazone pretending to be a tree, and in Ultra Galaxy Legends the movie as one of the creatures that made up the huge Kaiju Bio. His suit was reused for a kaiju from Fight Mighty Jack called Magon, and, let's see, running out of stuff here. Oh, he was also apparently present in a manga called Ultra Journey, and appeared in a live stage show or 2. And those are all the minor appearances I know of. Apparently, a writer wanted to include him in an episode of Ultraman Mebius, but that show apparently had a policy of using as few monsters from the original 1966 show as possible, so he was replaced by Soritra, who few people seem to remember. They should have given Keronia a chance. Time to look at Keronia toys now. Figures and other Keronia products do indeed exist, but they definitely aren't as easy to find as most of the other monsters from Ultraman 1966. The only one I can show off myself is one that isn't even mine, a Gashapon Keronia Spark doll that is quite valuable and hard to find. If you own this one, cherish it. You're probably going to need to shell out quite a few bucks if you want to add Keronia to your collection, although there are a few small options, like this diorama set you may be able to snag for a much better price. I don't currently have any Keronia stuff available on my eBay store, but I've got tons of other monsters, so be sure to check my store out. Simply click the link in the video description and you'll be taken to it. Oh yeah, I also have a new t-shirt design available on Teespring called Showa Style that references the Showa era of kaiju productions, so you can check that out as well by clicking a different link in the description. That will take you to my merchandise store. Oh, and speaking of apparel, now I should probably explain my choice of clothes for today. It is indeed a nod to the suit coat Keronia wears in Who Goes There, prior to becoming gigantic. So I hope you've enjoyed this little reference because it's been very itchy and I think it's time to take this off now. Where did I put my usual brown blazer jacket? Oh, I think I left it in my closet back at home. Phooey.
Boy, the professor is gonna be in for quite a jump scare when he gets home.